welcome to our pitch for Eurydice. Before we get started on the actual pitch itself, there are a few basics we have to cover, such as, who are we? Why are we standing in front of you today? Well, in case you didn't know, my name is Bryan. I go to the school. That's me right there. Yes. I'm a sophomore in theater education and acting BFA double major. I have a lot of directing experience, mostly in college, but some in high school. A specific highlight of my career is at my old school. I'm a transfer student. I was the youngest person to ever direct a student group main stage. And now introducing...
My name is Naliah. That is me. Also, we have matching shirts on in this. I just want to point that out. I'm a sophomore musical theater major. I've never directed before, but I've been acting for about 6 years. And most of my experience is in movement-based theater.
Yes. So a few other questions before we begin. What is Eurydice?
So Eurydice is based in the Greek myth about Orpheus and Eurydice. Very popular. Some would say it's the hottest myth of the season. In light of Hades Town, most of us know what this is. But this story has been used in plenty of theatrical productions, namely Jasper Deadman by Ryan Scott Oliver, that's a musical as well, and then Orpheus Descending by Tennessee Williams.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the myth, the story goes like this. Orpheus, this guy with the lyre right here, is the greatest musician of all time. He loses the love of his life, pictured here, Eurydice, on their wedding day to a snake bite. In his grief, he plays such beautiful music that the stones themselves weep and open a doorway directly to the underworld. There, he negotiates her release with Hades. The one condition is that he can never look back. She is commanded to walk behind him, he is commanded to march in front, and the one rule is don't look back. He ultimately fails because he cannot follow fucking directions. He looks back and she disappears forever. Eurydice, by Sarah Rule, the play we are here today to pitch to you, looks more like this. It is a feminist reimagining of this classical myth. It is not through Orpheus' lens on his infamous pilgrimage, but it is told through the eyes of his heroine, Eurydice. Dying too young on her wedding day, Eurydice is transported to the underworld where she reunites with her long-lost father and struggles to remember her lost love. Major themes of the work are remembering, love, and grief. That is the story. Talk about the cast.
So the cast of this show is specifically 2 men, 1 woman, and then 11 people of any gender. And we'll talk about those 11 people later in this pitch.
Yes. The last question we need to answer before we can kind of get to the meat and potatoes of our pitch is, so what? Why are we here? Why do we care about this story today in the 21st century? Well, we live in a world today that constantly and consistently diminishes the voices of women. This, Eurydice, is a feminist story that puts women at the center. By choosing to write her story around Eurydice instead of Orpheus, Sarah Rule puts the female perspective first. At the core of Eurydice, we realize the relationship between Orpheus and Eurydice is doomed to failure from the beginning, even though we romanticize it. They are fundamentally able to communicate, and what we want to do is find the flaws within this age-old myth and re-examine the relationships we choose to idolize in pop culture. Which brings us to the fun part. Woo. Our approach, our concept. This is an ostracon, an ancient piece of Greek pottery depicting the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice here. What we want to do, quite simply, is we want to take it off its pedestal and into the real world. We want to find the truth within the poetry. This is a very poetic play. We want to focus on mining the human connection within. We want to strike the heart of the relationship that's in the center of this show and exploit it and see it in all its messy glory. To that end, we are hoping to do a very stripped-down production of Eurydice. In the reading, as you'll see, the predominant image is an elevator in which it's raining all the time. We think it's possible to create something just that cool with nothing more than the human imagination. What we want to do is not present a big-budget spectacle. We want to do a small, stripped-down production. We want to do it with 4 chairs and a watering can. And a little special something, which brings us to...
So I mentioned my experience is in movement-based theater, and so that is what I'll be basing most of my work here in Eurydice. So the 11 people in the cast of any gender, 2 of them are spoken roles, but all of them will be playing the chorus of stones. So in the show, there's Little Stone, Big Stone, Loud Stone. We're beefing that up to be a larger ensemble. And because we're doing the stripped-down production, this ensemble will be building the world. So they will be acting as sets, props, living, non-living things, and all of that will be rooted in abstract and stylized movement. music used in this production, but none of it is dancing. It's all based in abstract movements. Therefore, it's not choreographed. So my job is not to be a choreographer, it is to be more of an orchestrator. It will be very actor-centric, actor-focused, allowing you guys to explore how you wish to express certain things in this. Yeah.
Essentially, we're looking to create something that's completely unique to this production here at Missouri State, this production and this alone. Our room is going to be very active. We're very ensemble and actor-based as directors. Which brings us to kind of the bare bones of this pitch, haha. But we need to talk about logistics very quickly. If you'd like to scan this QR code, this is a sample and tentative rehearsal schedule. If you don't want to, though, I'll summarize it very quickly. We want to rehearse this show for 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, 7 to 10. A specific advantage of this rehearsal schedule, we both are actors. We come to this from a tradition of performance. We thought about what we liked and didn't like, and what we absolutely hate as actors is weekend rehearsals, which is why, if you look at this, there are no weekend rehearsals ever. It's just 3 hours, once a day for several weeks, super easy. The other specific advantage that I'd like to draw your attention to on this rehearsal schedule is the use of understudies. Because we have a larger ensemble, our understudies for Eurydice, the Father, Orpheus, main roles are going to be sourced from within the Chorus of Stones. They are never going to be called for a day that they are not needed on. Every understudy is going to get a put-in, every understudy is going to get a tag. We see this as a specific advantage of this sort of rehearsal schedule. The last thing, and definitely the funnest thing of all to talk about, is the budget, the money. What we are seeking for this stripped down, bare bones production of Eurydice is $400. That breaks down into 2 big sections, $250 for rights, which we need to put this on, and $150 for odds and ends. We want to thrift a lot of the costumes. We want to create something that's super timeless, super cool, and that's super right in your face and super present. To summarize, our version of the classic story Eurydice is a stripped down, bare bones, ensemble-based production of this classic myth. It's a reimagining like nothing you've seen before. With your help, we can do this. That is the end of our pitch. What we are going to do now is we're going to move into the next room. We're going to do a sort of warm-up while we cast this show very furiously out there. There's a lot of scenes in it. This is going to be kind of an example of what our rehearsal process is going to look like within the room. So if you all join us in heading over next door, we'll get that started.